Good morning, everyone. Figured we could probably get started. Everybody should have had a chance to install whatever software Google Hangouts makes you install. Sometimes it requires people a few minutes to get it downloaded and get it working. So I like to give a little pause. So today we are learning Git in our PJs. Let me just make sure that people in the chat aren't going to say they can't hear me, but they can. Okay, good. So who am I? I'm Katie Cunningham. I am a Python developer. I also develop in AngularJS, and I am not a Git expert. I know people that know it way better than me that are like Git geniuses, but the truth is when you use Git, you don't need to be an expert. I know extremely talented developers, people who are, just geniuses, and they know the bare minimum of Git, which is 90% of all developers who use Git. We're mostly just, we know enough to get along. Because of that, you're going to see me occasionally have to look things up, because also like most people that use Git, I only use 3 to 4 commands daily. Everything else, it's usually an, oh crap, how do I do this? Look it up. And I kind of know what to do, but the particulars of the order to do it, and I have to look up. So if you have to look something up ever, don't think you're not expert enough or something. This is what we all do, to be honest. So, and please excuse the tissue. I always get like nasal drip when I teach these classes for some reason. So what is this class? This class is for beginners. If you already feel like you're an advanced Git user, I don't know how much I'll be able to, bring to your knowledge base. So it is for beginners. You do not need to know Git at all. If you know a bit about Git, then you're probably going to learn some of the more advanced stuff that'll really help you out. I'm trying to skip the stuff that generally nobody uses and focus on the things that are really useful for when you get into a jam. This is just going to use your local machine and GitHub. That's basically all I'm going to use today. So make sure your computer actually has rights to install things so you can install Git. I won't be using Cloud9 like I normally do because there's really no reason to. I will probably not take the full 2 hours. The reason I always allocate 2 hours is because sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes I get some interesting questions. And sometimes I somehow fill it up. But more than likely, it'll be like an hour and a half. At this time, I can't do Windows support. Normally, I'm the Windows support person in our group, but I can't see your machine, and my Windows laptop is like way over there. And also we have so many people, I believe it was 115 people signed up for this class, so I don't really have time to do Windows support. But if you're one of my DC PyLadies, come into the next meetup and I will make sure to get you set up. So I just can't debug a lot of things from where I am right now. Oh, and hey, I have a few things to give out from O'Reilly at the end of the class. I'll figure out during a break how to do some kind of random selection, which will probably just be a Google spreadsheet. So, quick review of Hangouts. You'll notice that there is usually a little apps thing at the top that has a bunch of little squares. If you click on that, you should see 2 things. Showcase, which are yellow tags, and Q&A. Showcase has a bunch of links that are important for the class. So it has, where to go to get Git, things people always ask for my YouTube channel, which is where this is archived. So you can watch this later if you want to go over a few things. It also includes the class outline, which you can feel free to go look at and then make a copy of so you can have something to do notes. Also, if you're an advanced Git user, you can just give it a quick look to see if there's anything you want to stick around for. Also our chat room, which you should definitely get logged into now. Q&A is where you would ask questions, and it's not for when you're having issues and you need help. It's like if you want me to go over something a little bit more in depth, like why would you use X over Y, ask that there. And every break, I'll review what's in the Q&A section and come back and answer all the questions in there. So how to get help? If you have any issues, you should go to the chat room. The chat room is at tlk.io/PyLadies DC. That's where you would go and ask questions. If you're, of course, in the live class. I'm not going to answer questions if you watch this later. If you watch this later and have questions, just comment on the video. Also, if you have to post like an error, go ahead and use dpaste.com. All you do with dpaste.com is you enter in your error and hit submit, and then share that link, because if you post it in chat, it's going to be a hot mess. So just do that. So let's get started. I'm going to check real quick in the chat. By the way, I'm not going to be checking the chat constantly. I get very distracted. So I'll be checking it every once in a while. Hopefully I'll have a couple of aides that'll be in there helping out and just checking it now and then. So let's see. So what is Git? Git is a way to version your code, first of all. Versioning your code is extremely important because it's very easy to screw something up and you want to go back and fix it, and you don't know like where you messed it up. That's one reason why versioning is very important. It's also important for controlling your releases. If you have a 1.0 project, 2.0, you need to be able to like separate out that code for your own sanity. Basically, versioning exists for your sanity and others if you've never used it before. I'm very glad they're starting to teach this in college, because when I finally learned about it, I'm like, why did nobody tell me about this? Because I took CS courses back in the dark ages. It's also considered distributed, which catches like a lot of people think it's automatically better because it's distributed without understanding what distributed means. Basically, every repository, so like the repository on the server, the repository on your machine, the repository on your coworker's machine, all of these are technically a server. So you can actually check out from like your friend's repo and from, the other, like the repo, somewhere else. I find that I don't use this very often. Actually, I can't remember. I only remember one time we did it, and that's because our repo actually went down. So we had one person that served as master, and we all worked off of that. So that was, it's not something I use very often, but it's very cool to have as a feature. Git, also to be honest, as a distributed versioning system, DVCS, it won the popularity contest, which is why we use it over Mercurial or any of the other ones out there. I remember when this was an argument in the Python community, which one will we use? And to be honest, Git just kind of won because it was popular, not because it was, insanely better than the others. And these days, it's the default for pretty much every place that I've worked or any project I've contributed to. We use Git. So it's very good to, it's very important to learn it. By the way, Git does not equal GitHub. People often confuse the two. They think that GitHub actually created Git, and that's not true. GitHub is simply a website you can go to, and you can host your repository there. And you can make it private or you can make it public. You can create organizations. It's a very handy tool. There are other Git sites, like there's GitLabs. I think Google Code even supports Git now, but don't quote me on that. There's lots of places that support it, but GitHub is kind of the popular one, and it's the one I point most new users to, because if you want to have the most contribution to your project, that's probably where you're going to want to go. And also, any project you want to contribute to is going to be there, more than likely. So you're probably going to need a GitHub account. So we're going to have a quick break right away, and it's not really a break like walk away, it's just me not talking, because we need to install Git and we need to get a GitHub account. So first of all, if you don't have a GitHub account, go to github.com. And this is, I'm obviously logged in, but let me log out. Go ahead and sign up here. Yeah, I know. Go ahead and sign up, create an account. I think they do some weird Actually, yeah, let me just go ahead and pick a username, test Katie, and email. Oh, by the way, if you ever need to get a second email address real quick, Gmail, it doesn't matter where you put periods. You can put as many as you want. That is technically a separate email. So just a pro tip from somebody that often has to create fake accounts. And I'm going to give it a nice fake one. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to go with free. You can just go and finish your sign up. No, don't ask me any questions. And there, you're done. So I'm going to sign out and sign out as me as a real person. I just wanted to make sure they still didn't have, they didn't have a weird like captcha or anything. Let me sign in. Oh my God, really? Oh, by the way, GitHub, there's two-factor authentication, which you probably want to sign on, even if it annoys the heck out of you. Mine should be with me in a second. So once you have a GitHub account, you are going to need to install Git, which I don't believe is hosted on GitHub. I always get it from here. You'll want to check one of the links in the showcase, or just Google install, download Git. For this, you can do, if you're on Linux, there's Linux instructions you can install on a Mac. They have a binary install. Here's the Windows one. If you really want to geek out, you can install from source. I don't ever really need to install it from source. I don't do anything fancy with Git. So I'm going to take a break now. And mostly I'm going to be looking at the chat to see if anybody's having any issues installing Git. And let me change the screen here. Okay, I'm going to assume that everybody has it installed. Shout in the chat, which once again is tlk.io/PyLadies DC. If you don't have it installed yet, and let's start going over creating a Git repo. So, going to move over to here. Gonna clear this out, and you can actually make a Git repo without going to GitHub first. So that's what I'm going to do. You can go to GitHub first and create the repo and check it out, or you can create it locally. So the first thing you really want to do is make sure that Git is installed. Type Git. You should get the message like this instead of, Git not found. And this is actually a nice way if you need to remember what something is called. So first thing I'm going to do is make a directory. Let's see, we'll call it Git class and cd into it. And to create a Git repo on your local, all you have to do is type git init. And ta-da! Initialized empty Git repo in this directory. And it does create a hidden directory called .git, which has stuff in it. We'll go over what some of that stuff is. A lot of it you don't really have to touch unless you're an advanced user, but it's good to know that it's there and what that directory is so you don't accidentally nuke it. All right, let's go ahead and create a file. I'm going to create a README. And READMEs are important, and you'll see why. First of all, because you should always have them in your repository. And two, because I'll show you how it shows up on Git. So I'm just going to create a really fast one. And I am using restructured text because it'll format it nicely, and it's nice to read in a text file. So I highly recommend using restructured text. But you can just do it in plain text if you want. So now we have a file in our directory, obviously, readme.rst. And to create this file, you can make it like anywhere. You can make it using anything, use Emacs, it doesn't matter. Just make a file somehow. And when you have this file, the first thing you need to do is actually add it to the repository, because you don't always want to add every file. That was one thing that used to drive me crazy. I think Subversion did this, where it automatically assumed everything in your directory. I think there was one of them that did that, assumed everything that was there you wanted to add. So I usually prefer to just add things one by one. So we need to do, let me make this a little bit bigger for everybody. Okay, git add readme.rst. So it's now been added to the repository. And the way you can check this is do a git status. Here it'll print out what branch you're on. We'll go over branches later. Initial commit just means this is the first, commit. And we have a new file to be committed. So it's ready to put it somewhere. Now, if you want to do this from GitHub, let me go back over here to create a new repository. Hey, I already signed in. Oh, that's right. I need to get my authentication code. Did it come in? No, it didn't. And I have. Yeah, resend it. This is the lovely world of two-factor authentication. Come on. But I highly recommend turning it on, especially now, because there was an issue a while ago, like a security issue. I can't remember the details of it, but basically two-factor authentication, which was already very important, became much more important. So let me see. There we go. There we go. Okay, now I'm actually logged in. So to create, as you can see, I have a few repositories. To create a new repository, you just go over to New Repository. You need to give your repository a name. So I'm going to call it Git_class. You can't have spaces in it. You can't have really special characters. I don't even think you can have capital letters. Let me try. Oh no, it's fine. You can have capitals, but I prefer this. You can add a description if you want. This is a junk repo. I'm going to make this bigger so y'all can see it. Public or private, because I have a paid account, I can make private repositories. I don't believe you can make private repositories on GitHub if you have a free account. So I have to pay for it because there are things I need to keep private. Let's see, let's create it. We'll ignore the rest of this stuff for now. Now, one of the nice things is right now it's going to give you some instructions. Let me go back to this. So we have this repository and it's local, but we can't actually save it to GitHub because it doesn't know where to push it. Whenever you want to take your local commits and push them up to the server, you have to do a git push. But if I do this, it's going to error. So it's more no configured push destination. So you basically have to tell it where to go. Now, if you're used to things like Subversion, whenever you commit, it goes. And this is one of the reasons I really like Git, that you can actually commit stuff, but not push. So you can commit a bunch of things and it'll save your history. This has been important for me when I travel because sometimes the Wi-Fi is crap. Sometimes I don't have access to Wi-Fi, but I want to work. So I can basically have all these nice commits instead of having to do one massive nasty push. Because when I finally get to Wi-Fi, I can do a push and it all ends up with all my history, including the times and everything on the remote server. So now what we have to do is we have to connect our local repository to our remote repository. And I have two things in chat. And hopefully they're not like, oh my God, oh my God. Oh, they're explaining Vim, sorry. Using iTerm on a Mac, any tips? No. And actually, let me show something before we move on, because I am familiar with VI. But another way, sometimes you don't want an editor to pop up when you want to commit something. So let me let me make a change to my file. VI read me. I'm going to just add, most of the stuff I'm going to be adding is junk. So don't worry about too much about what I'm adding. You can just add random characters. So what I'm doing here is git commit -a. So I'm going to commit my changes. And -m is the message I want to send, just a junk change. So that's another way to do it. -m just means message. And yes, somebody said Vim is a class unto itself. Oh yeah. I had a teacher actually take when I was learning it in college. It was literally a single class she went over Vim. So at this point, as I was saying, let's go back. I want to connect my repository that I have on my local machine to the GitHub repository. And happily, this is actually quite easy because it has instructions here. We've already done git init. No, we added a thing, we committed it. This is the important line right here that I'm highlighting. Git remote, add origin, and it has like a URL, and that's basically saying this is where I want all my code to come from. So let's do that. And you should be in your repository. Don't type in this. So it would be, git@github.com : your username and then whatever you called your repository. So I'm going to do this right now. And you don't really get a message. It's just like, okay. And the next thing we want to do is git push u origin master that basically sets like it's a setting that says, yeah, this is the one I want to use like all the time. No, bad. Copy. And there we go. And it actually pushed up all my code. So, and all my commits. So let's look at my repository. From that instruction page, just scroll up and click on the name of your repository, and it'll bring it up. So here we go. We have my README. We have one commit. You know, it shows just a junk change. And down here, it actually shows like what I had written in there, but it formats it nicely. So whatever is in your README is going to show up here. That's why it's important, because otherwise there's just going to be a message that says no README file, which, you know, if you're not going to share it with anybody, fine, but it doesn't look very nice. So let me move on to the next part. So now we have our repository that is hooked up. They're connected. And we've pushed up our changes. And from this point, we can actually go ahead and make some more changes. vi readme. This is another junk change. And git commit -a says any changes I've made, commit them. And here I enter in a message, junk, junk, junk. You should probably make better commit messages than I am right now. And git push. So I did a git commit, saved my change, did a git push, pushed it up. If we go back and look, there it is. And we can see we have 2 commits now. So the steps are, anytime you do Git stuff, is you make your changes, and when you're satisfied with like the changes you've made, you commit them, and then you push them up. This is really nice to have this kind of order because it's actually good to make small commits. You don't want to make these huge commits. So you want to kind of explain what you're doing. So for example, you know, and I'm guilty of this, I'll sometimes make larger commits, but it should be pretty small. So you might say, okay, I added a view to Django so that we can see this thing. You know, I updated the templates to add in, you know, this new field that we've added. It shouldn't be, I added, you know, this enormous feature. It should be much smaller than that. So somebody who's following along can also see like where things went wrong. It's also important for debugging, and we'll go over that later. So let's do a tour of your repository now. And this is, of course, probably why people are kind of catching up. And let me check the chat real quick. If people are still teaching VI, I'm sorry. I forget that people don't know VI because it's habit for me. You don't have to use it. You can use any text editor. If you have Sublime, you can even use like Notepad, which I forget what Mac has for a version of that. They have something you can edit with. So let's do a tour of our Git repo. So obviously it has your username, it has the name, has your description here. If you go to settings, I'm going to go over this now because people always ask this and they sometimes get really distracted by keeping this in the back of their head. If you want more than one person to be able to push to your repo and you trust them, like I'm talking, you will let them like watch your kids or your dog or your cat, you know, trust these people, you can add them here. So you can actually add them as a collaborator here. Oh, and by the way, you should probably want to give them a heads up. Don't just add people. Make sure to ask them, you know, is it okay? Or if it's obvious that, you know, hey, we're working in a group together, we should all be collaborators on this. That'll allow them to push their code to you without any like barriers to the repository, I mean. But there are other ways to do this. So this really is like you trust these people, and this is the easiest way for you to do this. My work does this. We all can push to the repository because we don't want one person like as a gatekeeper. But when I have public projects, I am the gatekeeper. That is what I prefer. So let's see. Another thing we have is we can go back to this. Issues. It comes with a nice little ticketing system. It's not, if you're used to Jira and stuff, it's not that advanced, but it's a nice way to track issues. Other people can also create issues. So if you have, you've created some kind of library, people might come in and say, hey, this doesn't work with Django 1.8. Hey, this isn't Python 3 compliant. What's your license, which is very important. So basically, who can use your software? People will create like issues, or you can create them for yourself just to keep track of what you want to do. So, and as I said before, your README does show up here, and you probably want to look at restructured text, which, by the way, is so easy because a lot of it's just real simple formatting. Let me show you on here. So like this just says, hey, make that a header 1. There's just like very nice little formats. So I'm not going to go into that this class because it's really easy to look up, and it's like 1 page. Quit. You can also see the commits that came in. So you can see my 2 commits. And also with these commits, what's nice, if you click on this, you can see what I changed. The green is what I changed, what I added. If I remove something, so let me VI this, just going to remove this. We're going to go back to Git class, make sure that that's gone. It is. We have an extra commit. If it's red, that means it was deleted. And this will actually show you like how much was deleted, how many things were removed, how many things were added. And this can be useful if you realize, oh crap, somebody removed like the link to the style sheet. That's bad. Let me put that back. Because stuff like that can happen accidentally, or somebody like thought your style was crap and just removed it. So this is how you can see what was removed or added, and this is super useful. And it's sometimes nice to see it on this site, but we'll also go over how to see this in the terminal. So, and there's also more things on here, but we're going to go over that later. We're not going to go over that right now. So right now, let's grab I'm going to grab somebody else's repository. Don't grab this poor guy's repository because we're friends. But I didn't get a chance to warn him that, I'm going to grab your repository and do some weird things to it. This repository is called PyNoon. I do not have access to it. Like I'm not a collaborator. So I shouldn't be able to pull from it, or I shouldn't be able to push to it. But what I can do is check it out. So git clone, come over here, and I'm going to go to GitHub /life. Come on, it's just here. Life with Ryan, PyNoon. This is an important, as I said, don't grab this poor guy's repository. So over here, if you see there's a bunch of stuff, he has a very nice little README. He has some code. You can see his commits. If you go over here, there's SSH clone URL. You want to grab this. And actually, if you click this, it'll copy it to your clipboard. Yeah, thanks for the late authentication codes. So it's git clone and then that URL. So it's git at GitHub a username and then the name of the repository. So often if you know, like I've before like just guessed at this because I kind of knew all these things, but you can also grab it off of GitHub. So if I hit enter, oops, I don't want to put that there. So here, if I do ls, you'll see that I do have a folder now called, where is it? PyNoon. Couldn't see it there, but oh, there it is, because it's capitalized, and Linux. So now I'm in a directory. I have all of Ryan's stuff. I have his README, I have his PyNoon. I can make changes to this, so let me change his README. And let's say I just want to add some bullet points there, so it'll look nice. Because I like nice looking README files. I'm going to save it. So I made a change. Now, one thing I'm going to show you real fast, because I didn't make a note to do this, or by the way, it's the first time with me using this outline, so I might stumble back and go, oh, I have to show you this thing. If I do a git status, it shows me, okay, I modified README. So I made a change. I'm going to commit the change. Made billets. And I'm just going to go ahead and push. And I'm going to get an error. Error, permission to life with Ryan / pynoon.git denied to K Cunning. So I just don't have the access rights to do this. Ryan hasn't added me as a collaborator, but I'm not stuck. So I'm actually going to go back. I'm going to remove pynoon, because one of the things you can do is you can fork it. When you fork a repository, you make a copy for yourself. Your changes do not affect his changes. So you can fork it. Now he will know you forked it. He will see that. But your changes now belong to you. I often do this with repositories that are old. For example, there's a library I use quite often with Django. I love it. It's exactly what I need. But the guy stopped supporting it about 3 years ago. So I made a copy of it. I forked his repository, and I've been updating it as needed because I didn't want to fall behind, but he was no longer interested in maintaining it because he felt that another product was better, and I disagree with him because I like his. But I keep it up to date. So I have my own copy, and that's one of the beauties of working with open source stuff like this. You can keep it updated even when the original owner no longer has any interest in updating it. So let's fork it. You get a choice of who can fork it if you have more than one organization. As you can see, I belong to a few organizations, but I'm going to fork it using my my GitHub account. And here we go. You'll notice here it's my username, the name of the repository, and it even says forked from Life with Ryan / pynoon. And it says that, first of all, you want to know where you forked it from, and somebody else might want to know because they may run across this and think that this is the latest version, but I may just have a copy because I was going to make some changes and forgot. So here we go. I have my own copy now, and if I go down here, I can get the link again, git clone, and this time it says git at github.com : my username, kcunning / pynoon.git. Checked it out. Let's go into pynoon. We have the files. I'm just going to add those bullets back again to make it look nice. And so if Brian later on goes, what the heck was she doing with my repository? He at least might have some nice bullets he can grab. So I've edited it. I am going to commit it. Bullets. and I'm going to push it, and this time it worked. And we can even go over here and see, ta-da, it has bullets now. So my version has bullets, but if we go back to Life with Ryan's, his does not. And I took a lot of time to go over this, but a lot of beginners don't understand this. They think all their changes are going to be pushed up, and that freaks them out, so they don't fork anything. Ryan can see that I forked it. So if he clicks this one, he can see that I forked it, that I did something. And he can even go and see like what I changed, which he'll probably, come to me later and go, what the heck? Why did you check out this 2-year-old repository of mine? So, but yeah, he can see it, so know that. But most of us are very used to this. So it's not something to get too stressed out about. Let's see. So the next thing I want to do is a pull request. I'm going to go back to my Git class. Now, if you want to create a pull request, actually, no, first, what I want everybody to do is to fork my Git class. And I'm going to put this in the chat. All right. Go ahead and fork my Git class right now. And I'm going to take a real quick break while everybody forks it so I can drink some coffee and some water and preserve my voice. But I'll give everybody a few minutes. So just to review, go to this URL, github.com/kcunning/git_class, and go to fork, click this button, and it'll allow you to fork. And you'll want to you want to have it. Also, you should probably check it out. So check out your version of the Git class, because we're going to do some stuff in a few minutes that requires that. And I actually will need audience participation in order for it to work. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Taking my camera away so I can actually drink in peace. And I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Yay, we have forks. So I can click here and look at, come on, load. Well, I know it's fork because I see all the forks here, but it's not showing me because sometimes it takes a little bit for this to update. So let me go back to my Git class. Normally I'd see like a bunch of all these little lines, but we now have a bunch of forks. We have 15 forks, which is more than enough to work with. So let me pull up. Let's do a pull request. So the first thing you need to do is make some edits. And I'm going to go over to poor Ryan's going to go over to my PyNoon. Sorry, I'm not going to go over to Ryan's. So this is my copy of PyNoon, and I want to do a pull request. And what a pull request is it basically signals to the person who owns the repository that I forked from that I have some changes that I think they should pull in. So in order to do that, I go to my repository and I click pull request. And I say new pull request. Now, comparing changes, the base fork is Life with Ryan, PyNoon, which is where it came from. The head fork, me, K-Cunning PyNoon. And here are the things I edited. It shows everything that I'm going to be showing to him. I'm going to create a pull request. Ryan, you can totally ignore this. Thanks in advance. And I'm going to create a pull request. So now you can see Life with Ryan / PyNoon has a pull request. And he can actually choose to like pull it in. He can comment and say, I don't know what you're doing here. I don't agree with this. I've had to do this before. Somebody took one of my repositories and did some crazy pants stuff with it. They're like, oh, I wanted to update this so that it would work with like this other stuff. And I'm like, I don't care about that other stuff and I don't want to work with it. So I'm rejecting your pull request. And other times people have come in and said, oh, there was an error and I found it and I fixed it. And I obviously accept those because I love people fixing like my bugs for me. So right now, what you need to do is go to your version, go to your Git class, and make some changes. It doesn't matter what they are, add in more junk text, go ahead. But then once you're done, go ahead, commit your changes, and do a pull request. So just to review, go to your Git class, go to pull requests, click new pull request, and fill out all the stuff. And in a few minutes, we'll go back and we'll actually pull in some of these pull requests. And I'm just going to pick one at random. So don't get your feelings hurt if I didn't like pick yours because I'll probably be playing with pulling in all of these until I get an error in a bit. So give you a few minutes to do that. And I'm going to keep chat up in case anybody needs any help. Oh, right, we have some pull requests, and I'm going to show you what somebody is having an issue. Um, all right. So we have some pull requests, and if I go here, I can see, oh, I have 6. I have 6 pull requests. I'm going to pick the one about PJs. So if I click on it, I should be able to see, commits. It shows me, okay, there was an update to the README, and the files change. I can see, I love my PJs. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to click Merge Pull Request, confirm. It was merged in. So if I do, actually, I'm going to get out of here. Projects, get underscore get class. If I do a git pull and I look at my README, I have the change. So when you do a pull request, sometimes people may accept it, they may not. They may comment, as I said, but it's as simple as that if you want to contribute back. I recommend contributing full features. So you have a bunch of commits, but it will have actually created something, like completed something. It will have completely fixed a bug. It will have just done a whole thing. And that's what you push. You don't push like individual commits unless the head like has asked you to. Like you're having an error, and they're like, "Oh, I fixed that. Go ahead and push it up. Don't worry about it." But that's rare. Normally, we want everything to be fixed. So there we go. Let me bring my notes back up. That's not my notes. Notes. So the next thing, I'm actually going to take a little bit more of a break. It's 10:30, so we have an hour left. And I'm actually going to drink coffee this time because last time I said I was going to drink coffee and didn't. So I'm going to drink some coffee, drink some water, and let's see. Online timer that doesn't have a million freaking ads. Which I meant to look up. Oh, look at that. That's so nice. I had this other one I used that was literally ads here, ads here. No, stop, off. So I'm going to take a 5-minute break and I will be back. So go ahead and get your coffee, stand up, walk around, and I will be back in 5 minutes. All right, I'm back. So let's go to the next bit, branching. So let me see, and let me check this. And oh, I kept saying that I was going to check the Q&A, and I keep forgetting. But no Q&A. Everybody forgets about the Q&A, so good. I haven't missed anything. All right, so branches. Right now what we're working on is called master. If you've used Subversion or anything, there's trunk. Master is basically, you know, the bottommost level of like the code. It's where all the code like comes from. You can branch off of that, which is nice when you're working on like an independent feature. One, it helps you keep your sanity. Two, it actually helps keep your work separate from other people. So for example, where I work, we're all working on one code base right now, and there are 5 of us working on it. When I work on my branch, my changes don't affect any of my coworkers, so I can just work blissfully on. I can also choose when to bring in what's changed in master. I don't want to be in the middle of working on something and then somebody commits something and it screws me up. So branches are extremely important for your sanity. So right now what I'm going to do is I am going to create a branch. The way you do that, git checkout -b, meaning let's create a branch, and I'm going to call it, you know, index. And if you do git branch, just say git branch. It shows you all of the branches you have. So master and index. And the one with the asterisk by it, that's where you are. That's your branch. Or it's the branch you're currently on. You can have like other people's branches too, but that's the one I'm currently working on. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make some changes on my branch, and I'm going to create a new file. And let's see. Oh, right. My Chrome closed because everything is terrible. There we go. I'm going to get my GitHub back. Get my Git class up. And random word generator. I had this up too, but let's see. No, random text generator. Because I just want some random stuff. And I'm going to get some HTML. And where's English? English. Yeah, index.html. HTML. Body. Paste a bunch of stuff. Body. HTML. And I'm just creating a dummy page because I want lots to show off because I'm going to be editing stuff. We need to add it. Git add index.html. Git commit -a, adding an index, pushing it. This is something you often have to do with branches. And it'll tell you helpfully what you need to actually put in there. So let me explain what this is. Basically, you need to set what the upstream is. So like this is my branch. I need to say, what am I pulling from? Like, where is my parent? Because you can branch off of branches. Like that's, you can just make these crazy like structures and branch off of branches, which I've actually done before. When somebody has a branch and they're like, oh my gosh, I have an error, I don't know what to do, please help. I check out their branch, create a branch off of it so they can keep working on their own stuff on that branch make the fix that they couldn't figure out, show them the fix, and then we merge, which we'll go into next. So, and all this means is git push, and my upstream is the origin of index. So wherever I got index from, that's the origin that I want to use. A lot of these you don't have to worry about. You just copy paste and it works just fine. But it's good to know what each bit kind of is. So I made a branch and I have pushed it at this point. So let me go back to git class. Now if I reload, there's no index.html. But if I go to branches, I can see, oh, there's a branch called index, and it was here, like default branches master, my branches and active branches. Here we have git class, and you can see, here's my index.html with all the crazy text. So there you go. Now you have a branch, and you can keep working on it, and it is not going to affect, no, stop it. And it's not going to affect the other branch. Now, if you want to switch branches while you're on GitHub, you actually go over here where it says branch index, click on master, and it'll show you master. Now, let me do something new. Okay, so let me first, we are going to first merge it back down. So right now, we are on index. We want to merge it back down to master. And it's pretty easy to merge as long as there are no errors. So the first thing you want to do is check out master. So git checkout master. Boom. And I always like to check because I am super paranoid. Yes, I am on master. I've lost days thinking I was on the right branch. So, well, not days, but an hour. So we are now on master. And to rebase, we do git, or no, to merge, we do a git merge index. So we're telling git merge index onto my current branch. And it shows you. It's like, oh, look, we added index. All the little plus signs are all the things we added. If I remove some things, we'd see some minus signs in there. And if we do an ls, now we have an index.html. We've successfully merged what was an index onto master. And if we go over here, and we reload, I'm on master. Oh, wait. After you merge, that's just on your local, you need to do a push. And look, we have an index. Oh, and just one cute thing, if you see this little strip here, tells you what is in your repository, like how much Python you have, how much JavaScript, how much HTML. I've never found a practical use for this, but it's there. So now we have an index.html, and this was the one that we added in index. It's important to know how to merge, because if you don't know how to merge, you can't really use branches, because branches can't be out there forever. One thing that you should know, so let's say we have this. Now I still have my branch, like I can still go to index and do work, which I have done. Like I've had, usually when you use branch and you merge it back down, you don't use it ever again, but I have had instances, for instance, we had an emergency, I was on a branch, and they said, we understand you're not completely done with the feature, but we need what you have. So I went ahead, I said, okay, I'm at a stopping point, go ahead and let's merge down now. Merged it down. Then I went back to my branch and continued working to fine tune like the rest of the stuff. I think I hadn't written some tests, and there's one or two things that were still outstanding, but we had to have half of the features right then. So let's go back, check what branch we're on. We're still on master, so git checkout index. Actually, no, I didn't want to do that. Ignore me. So let's say you're going along, you're coding, and there's been a change to master, and you need that change. Now, I recommend that if you're working with a master that changes all the time, you want to pull in their changes quite often. So right now, I am on master. So I'm going to edit index.html. And somebody goes in here and they say contrasted like was. And they make this change. So super important to them. Commit was going to push it up. Check to make sure it went up. Make sure that I'm on master. Yes, it went up because I have 7 commits now. Woes is up there. So I'm going to go back to index. So now I'm on my branch. But the problem is that if I look at index, here is where I made the change on master, and it's not there. And no impression assistance contracted. Should be like woes at the end of that, but it's not there. So I need to get that change. Now, if I just do a git pull, it only pulls on my branch. Like, that's it. So that's not really what I want to do. Let's see. Did I make notes on how to do this? No, of course I didn't. Git fetch. That doesn't really do anything. That's another way to pull. So one thing you want to do is you want to do git rebase -i origin master. What this is going to do, a rebase is going to take the changes that are in master and it's going to rebase your current code. It's basically going to take those changes and try to shove them into your code, and hopefully it'll work. It is not unusual to have issues. So, oh, I hate it when I get noop. Okay, let me make sure this actually worked. Yes, it did. So I basically git rebase -i origin master says, oh, and the reason it said noop, I had no changes like to worry about because it had all been rebased down. So in no oppression assistance contrasted like woes. So here you can actually see that, ta-da, it pulled in all the changes. If you're working, as I said, if you're working in a master that has like that has these, you know, it's changing quite a bit, you need to like do this often or it's painful. The other day I had a coworker that hadn't pulled in a while and we were all furiously updating and she suddenly got stuff all over the place. So we had to sit down and go through and talk through. It's like, okay, keep that, don't keep that. It was insane. So yeah, do this quite often. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find a conflict. It's funny, when I don't want a conflict, they're like, you know, they come all the time. If I do want a conflict, like right now, it's really hard to make one. So first I'm going to try to make one. Going to check out master, and you don't need to copy this. Let's see, vi index.html. Oh no, wait, I want to check out master. Git checkout master, edit index.html. In some impression, just going to change that. -a. Going to push that up. So I've just pushed a change to master. Going to check out index. Push. Okay. So let's see. And I'm changing the same word. I'm going to see if this works. So in many impression assistants, basically the other one was, I think, one or something else, but it's a different word than many. Commit bad change. Let's say I had a PM come by and say, oh yeah, it's supposed to be that. And then somebody else realizes, no, it's supposed to be this other thing, and they commit it in. This happens quite a bit. Or if you change something, actually more common is that you change a bit of code, but somebody else wrote something that code, they had also changed that code, but theirs is what you want, or you have to do some weird merge of the two. So push. Now let's try git rebase -I origin master. So here, it actually shows, here is the change that we're going to try to merge. Aha! Yes! I actually created this. Okay, cool. First, before we go and fix this, okay. Looks like somebody's already helping. Just checking a depaste. Okay. So here we have a message. Could not apply, you know, whatever, bad change. That's a hash, by the way. We'll get into hashes in a bit. When you've resolved this problem, run git rebase continue. If you prefer to skip this patch, just skip it. Don't skip. Usually you don't want to skip. Every time I've done that, it's been bad. And check out the original bands to stop rebasing, run git rebase abort. So how we see what's going on here is, let's open up, let's do a git status. So actually I'm going to run that again so it's much more clear what I'm doing. And yes, it's going through saying, look, you're in the middle of a rebase. Don't do anything else because you need to finish this before you start doing anything. You see both modified index.html. So let's open up index.html, see what's going on. Ah, look what they did. So you'll notice in here you have like all the angle brackets, head, equal signs, and then you have angle brackets going the other way, and then a hash and bad change, which was your commit. What this means, I'm going to bring back up my notes. What this means, here that's in the top, this is what's in master. So I hate the way they name this because it's not always obvious, but the top is what is in master. This is what is in your branch. So at this point, you kind of have to make a choice. You can sometimes merge the two, which I've had to do. Sometimes you just kind of rewrite that bit of code so it works, and sometimes you're like, oh crap, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, let's keep the other person's stuff. So here is how you do that. I am basically going to delete all of my stuff, which is basically saying, okay, I should not have made that change. Another way you can do that, you can just edit theirs. So what was the thing in many, some, let's see, let's not merge that. Let's just keep their thing. So here I'm going to delete their thing, the little equal sign, my change, and the carrots. Make sure all the carrots are gone. You don't want those to be checked into your code. You can actually put in hooks, which are just little scripts that run every time you check in that'll look for those. But you don't want the little hooks in there. So I have made my changes. This is how my file should look. The next thing you have to do is do a git add on that file. So it basically says, I know we both modified this. I've made the changes and everything's good to go. And you do git rebase -- continue. Success. Git push pull, and here's where everything goes to hell. By the way, if you ever hear developers talk about rebase hell, this is it. Let's see, vi index. Yeah, they did it again. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. Yeah, this happens every once in a while, and this is where I start having a brain lock. So let's see. At this point, I'm not going to sit here and debug this because usually it's just I did something in the wrong order, or I need to like do something else. But there are some links in the notes that how to resolve conflicts, and there's a couple of other things that are in there. Conflicts are often just the worst part of dealing with Git sometimes, but it's very useful because it is very clear. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break to also let people catch up because some people are trying to catch up to where I am while I try to fix this. Magically, it worked. So, oh, did I? Yeah, that happens a lot. I misspelled continue at one point. Yeah, my fingers get faster than my brain, and I have typos. It's actually why when I have Sublime open, I actually have a spell checker running through it, even though it's code, because I will misspell things quite a bit. So let's see. So let's talk about messing up. I'm going to do a change. I'm going to change my index. And I'm just going to change like a bunch of stuff. Like my cat walked across my keyboard. Actually, I don't have a cat. If my dog walks across my keyboard, I have worse problems than some bad code. But you know, I've made some changes, and they weren't ones that I had meant to change. And I'm like, oh crap, I want to get rid of these. You can do a git reset if you haven't committed anything hard. Ta-da! It basically takes all your changes and poof, they're gone. I use this all the time when I realize that I'm going down the wrong path, that I've made some changes I didn't need to, and I don't want to go back and change everything back. I just do a git reset -hard, which means get rid of all the changes. Anything I added, anything I did, just blast them. That is useful. I type this in way more than I'd like to admit. You can also do a git reset soft, which is different. It doesn't always get rid of everything. It keeps the files around if you need them to kind of stick around. So let's see. So, that's a good thing to do. You can also revert. So I'm going to do a couple of changes. And yeah, you're going to see all kinds of like spelling stuff now that you all know that I misspell stuff. And I'm going to VI readme PJs. And you'll notice that I am now, instead of doing commit A, which is commit all, I'm actually doing git commit in a file name. This is a habit you might want to get into. I used to be a big one, like git commit -A, just commit everything I've done. But now I'm actually in more of a habit of just committing like 1 or 2 files at a time with a good commit message. Because it's clear to somebody who's followed me what exactly I was doing at every step of the way. Now I'll still occasionally say, I just want to commit everything. I know what I'm committing. It's okay. But this is another way to do it. Okay, it's pushed up my changes. But then I decide that I don't want to have that one change. So I'm going to do this real fast. I'm going to go over what this is in a bit. So this is basically all the commits, and these are hashes. They are unique IDs for each of these commits. And the hashes are actually much longer. They're like super, super long. But this just shows enough to get by. So I actually want to go back to this commit. So if I do a git revert to this one, status, wait, let's look at what the README is. Let's see if I did this right. Oh, I didn't do it right. Well, let's go back to this one then. This is not something I use as often because I'm often not reverting changes. Or maybe I'm just using it wrong. Yeah, I'm probably using it wrong. I'll have to look that up. Actually, let me look that up now. Because all I put in my notes was git revert. Like, I was going to remember what it actually does. Git revert. And I'm just reading. Because some of the pages you come across go through, Git people who have a bad Well, a not great habit of every time they explain something, explaining all the theoretical reasons, because Git is rather complicated, like in the back end. So all the theoretical reasons, like why you would do this, and the dumb bubble diagrams, which I hate. So every time you run into it. Oh, I see. We'd have to do a git push. Git push. Now let's try to do a git revert. Let's see if it works. Sorry, everybody. To reset this all the time, where I screw up just one file and I need to just check that one back out. I don't want to reset everything. So let me actually, I think this will work. I accidentally deleted this. This happens so often to me, it's like shameful. Git reset head index.html. Ah, it didn't work. Just going back to master, screw it. I've messed up index.h. I've messed up the index branch probably. So I'm making a change to README. Status. Oh, I don't want to like, let's say I don't want that change to README to go up. But I've made a bunch of other changes. Git reset head README. And this, of course, is also not working. All right, don't know why these aren't working. Normally these work because I use these all the time. Oh, I know what it is. Forget it. I don't care anymore. And this is one of the problems I have with Git. It's like I write notes on how to do things and like, oh, do it this way, and then it doesn't work. One I do all the time also, and my apologies for the past like 10 minutes, is git stash. All it does is take all the changes you've made that you haven't committed, and it stores them away. It just puts them in like a little folder, like a little file somewhere, and it basically takes your current working code and just resets it to whatever you had at the last commit, which I find very useful, especially if I make some changes and I haven't committed them and I realize too late that I'm on the wrong branch. So I'll stash them and then I'll check out the correct branch and then I will write git stash apply. And it brings all my changes back. This happens to me pretty often, especially if I'm working with like 3 or 4 other people and we're bumping back and forth. And they're like, hey, can you check out this? Can you look at this? And I check out their branch and I look at it and I give them some advice and I forget to switch back, which happens. So let's talk about, actually, I'm going to take a quick break for my voice. What time is it? Oh, 11:14. Crap, we're running out of time. Let's go over a few things. If you want to get history, you can type git log, and it shows you like all of the changes. And here are the full hashes. It has what exactly, you know, the comment, type Q to get out of it. Let's see. You can also see what was changed by doing git show. Just copying some of the hash. You don't need the whole hash. And it shows you what was changed, which is nice. You can also do this on GitHub, but often you don't want to have to go over to GitHub to see what was changed, and it looks plenty nice over here. So let's see, we're at 11:15. And anybody who's trying to do catch up, this is archived, so you can go back and watch it again and like pause me and fast forward to the parts where I'm just like, I have no idea, like why this isn't working. Let's see, I have some other things in my notes, but I don't think I'm going to go over them because I am running out of time. We only have 15 minutes left. And I do want to go over some of the like GitHub tricks. So next time, I'll probably be able to, not struggle for like 10 minutes. So GitHub tricks, if you go over to GitHub, these are some of my favorite things that I love about GitHub. You can do something called GitHub Pages. I used these as soon as I discovered what they were, I started using them. And I won't go over how to use them. I'm actually going to use these tomorrow in a workshop we're doing. But what you can do is it creates just these nice little HTML pages that you can put up, and we use them at my work. They're super easy, they're super fast, and just really easy to like use. So if you need a quick and dirty website, this is a good place to go to. Especially if you just don't feel like setting up a server or anything like that. You can do it, and you can also connect URLs to it, like domains to it. Git deploy hooks. If you go back here, you go into settings, you go into webhooks and services. Webhooks. Webhooks basically mean when you check something in or do something, do this other thing. So like when I check my code in, deploy it to Heroku, which is really nice. That my company uses this, and it's super nice because we have a dev server that every time something checks in, we do want to do a deploy right away. Like when it's checked into a certain branch, it should automatically go. And you can also do webhooks like Slack. If you use Slack, every time somebody checks in code, our Slack channel is set to alert that some code has been checked in, or that we have a pull request, or that somebody's opened up an issue. It's really useful because, quite frankly, we pay closer attention to Slack than to anything else. You can also add services. These are pre-built, or just they're set up by GitHub. This is more for like whatever else you need. The services, I don't even know what 90% of these are. But if you recognize some of these, it might be building it automatically. I know for a lot of like things like Jabber, it's just, okay, send out a message to these people. There's an email one, you can email certain people. These are really useful to start exploiting because they can start automating like your whole cycle, which is good. We like automation. You can also create a wiki, which is useful if you're going to have a larger project. This is a good place to explain a lot of it, like what's behind it, how to contribute. So you might say, hey, don't ask to be a contributor, go ahead and do pull requests. We review them every Friday. Or we're not accepting any pull requests because of certain legal reasons, or we just don't like people. So you can create a wiki. You can also create organizations, which can be, you saw all the organizations I'm a part of. It's a nice way to organize your code. So you'll have your own repositories, but if you work with an organization like, let's say, DC PyLadies, you can have your own like code under there, all the repositories. Like here's one for the website, here's one for the projects we do, that kind of stuff. So it's not all mixed up. in your stuff, which is mostly how I use organizations. That and their GitHub pages have a nicer URL attached to it. If you want to learn more in the Google Doc, I have a couple of really great resources. There is the first one, Try GitHub. That is a just interactive tutorial that you can run through. I really like Roger Dudler's Git Guide, warning, strong language in there, but it's just a very practical, this is how you do things. There's a GitHub cheat sheet on there, which everyone should have. And the last one is the tutorials from Atlassian. And that's one of the more thorough ones and actually has like more advanced stuff. So, all right, we got to the end. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Sorry about I thought we'd get out earlier than this because I honestly, when I was putting this together, I thought, no way is this 2 hours, but apparently it was. I hope to do this again in a few months. And I want to do this in person also, eventually for all of the poor Windows people. But I'd like to thank everyone for coming. And if you have any questions, either comment on the video once it's up, or you can catch me, Kay Cunning, on Twitter, or contact me through the meetup groups. And I hope everybody has a great Saturday. Bye.